So we're going to put together an ad flyer for our restaurant that uses the graphic design principles CARPE to advertise an event that we're going to host at the restaurant. So let's get started by creating a new document in InDesign. Let's go up to print and choose letter, which is the first one, which is the typical size of paper that we use here in the United States. So click create and we'll get started. Now we have the default guides in here that put us a ½ inch off of the edge, which is about as close as we want to be putting elements onto the page. We wouldn't want anything closer than that. We could make them a little bit bigger, but I'm going to stick with these margins for now. Anything that's not a bleed element, meaning an element that we want to run all the way off the edge of the page, we want to put inside of this box, and I'll use these for my alignment as well. So first thing I want to do is think about the elements of that I want to put onto my flyer. I certainly want to put in my logo. I know that's going to be on the page. So I'll place that in. It's not going to be that big because that's not the dominant graphic that I'm going to have. So I'm going to put that down here on the left-hand side. Grab the edge here so I drag it. And we'll fill that in here as we go along. Let's just put that down here at the bottom. Alright, my event's going to be called Tapas and Trivia. Tapas is sort of a small plate type of food be serving here. So I'm going to start off by typing in my title. I'll select that, and I want this to be really big. And I want a really strong font. I'm going to work inside of Arial here. Arial has a lot of different features inside of its drop down here. I'm actually going to go to narrow bold, and I'll keep bumping this up until that goes edge to edge. That's a good way to kind of set up your title, is have it going across the top. And I actually want to make this ampersand, I'll make that bigger. Like that. Alright, let's go from there. And then we need to have a graphic. Now you're making your graphic in either Photoshop or Illustrator and placing that in. For me, I'm just going to go ahead and make myself a large question mark and use that as my graphic element today so we can see that. And I want that to be pretty big and bold. Let's pick that up. That'll work. Now if I want to scale this up because it's text, I can come into, let's see here if I can just scale this way. Should have a transform tool over here. Oh, it's going to allow me to scale it just like it's a graphic from the corner. That's what you would do as well. Hold down Control and Shift and drag that. I like to make sure my frames are the size that I need. So we'll start there. I would like that to be a different color, however, so it will stand out. So I'm just going to choose red here. All right, let's start putting in the details. You want your graphic to be pretty dominant here. So what do I want to have here? Well, let's start over here. It's going to be every Tuesday night. Take off my caps lock. And I want to stick within this Arial typeface here. Let's do bold here. And I think that can stand to be a little bit bigger, maybe 24 here. Kind of resize your text frames. Now once you get a font that you like, using repetition, you want to repeat that. I just use copy paste, Control C, Control V. I start just kind of working here. And I'm going to paste that again, Control V. Now, it's going to be free to play, so I want free to be emphasized. So not only am I going to make that all caps, but I'm going to make that quite a bit bigger. So even within the details of my event, I want to make sure that I emphasize within there. So free is important. So within here, I'm going to put these elements together. So this is saying it's free to play here. I'm going to do something similar with this, because I want to put my time in here. So I want to get out the details. I want to know where it is, when it is, what it is. And I can do something here. Just repeating these elements in here. And we're going to say small. Take my caps lock off. Plates. And let's do this. I think we can put this maybe a little bit farther down. And let's put this in here. And let's say half off. So I'm emphasizing different parts. You have two words like this and they feel like they're a little far apart. Underneath your font size is this other number. This is called leading. Looks like leading, how it's spelled, but it's called leading, and that controls the distance between your lines. I'll just make that pretty tight here so those go together. And let's have small plates being half off. And then I need some information for my restaurant. So I'm going to put some text box down here. We can put in my address. Take the caps lock off. Repeating that font. And what I probably want my web address there. Now, can't make everything the same, so I want to emphasize some objects and I want to de-emphasize others. It's going to be nice and small, and it's going to group down here with my logo. So I'm going to have groupings of information here. Maybe this is a little bit smaller to give it some space away from here. And I can think about maybe making this a tad smaller. Okay. So I'd like to separate out my title a little bit more, give it some contrast. So I'm going to do that by putting in a rectangle, and it's going to be a bleed element. So I'm going to bring it across here, and I'll just set this to being black for now. Now I can't see my text that's in there, so let's make this text be white so it really contrasts with that rectangle. Now I could use any color of rectangle I want. We're going to set this to paper, which is white in InDesign. Let's put my box over it. Now my box is covering it up, so right click on that, arrange, and say send to back. Now you notice this other text is the same way. So let's just pull that rectangle off for a second. I'll put it on my pasteboard. I think all of these could be white as well. And we'll put those up at the top. If you're having problems selecting your objects, it's a good idea to keep the frames of those objects just the size they need to be. Extra frames that are around cause some problems. And I like how this question mark overlaps that. I'll have that just come up there like that. I'm going to put in my question mark. Up here you'll see some effects that I can add. I'd like to add a little drop shadow onto there. And let's see if we can see that. And I can bring that in so it's maybe not so far away with the distance. Yeah, maybe like that. That gives that a little bit of depth, and you can do that as well with your objects. I'd like to see this maybe come down like here. So I like how this stands off at the top. I could think about maybe contrasting this even more by putting some effects onto my text. So if I click on my text and maybe look up here, and maybe there's something I can do a little bit more. I could put an outer glow on it, a drop shadow or an inner shadow. Let's take a look at bevel and emboss. It can make that stand off. Once you click on the effects, this whole menu comes up, and you can just click through these different items that are in here. If you click on the check mark, it'll put it on. I'm going to set that to normal. Let's choose a different color, and you can see what's going on there. I could kind of set that off a little bit. You can change the size that it is. So some different things you can kind of play with. Certainly I wouldn't want to do that for all my text, but with my title, to make it stand out, I can do some different effects on there. What I'm trying to do is balance out my page. I have a large graphic that draws your attention. It's a contrasting red color, the question mark. I have the title of my event that's contrasted in both the size, color, and the fact that I've separated it with this box. So emphasizing this free every Tuesday night. And what is my deal? My deal is half off small plates. I definitely want to make sure, I'd probably bring that down just a little bit to balance that out, give it some space. And that's where you can start fine tuning. But I can see one element, what it is, second element here that gives some details, and thirdly, where it is down here. I'm aligning everything on the left-hand side here, balanced out by my graphic that's on the right. So I have emphasized what it is, where it is, and those details, and I've grouped my elements together with proximity. And I could maybe play around with maybe 7 and 9 should be here, and separate this small plates down here a little bit more to try and give it some emphasis. So those are the details you can start thinking about once you get all of the elements on the page. Good luck. I look forward to seeing your designs.